Hello everyone and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry, a fan channel where everything Dragalia Lost can be found. In today's video, we'll be looking through this month in Dragalia Lost for the month of August 2020. This is where we get a preview of what's to come in the month ahead for Dragalia Lost and sometimes get some snippets of information or some teasers of what's to come in the game as a whole. So I have skimmed through the details for August. It does look like a lighter this month in Dragalia Lost. It's no surprise in some ways since we're coming up on the game's anniversary at the end of September 27th or 28th depending on where you're located. Pretty much I expect that last week of September, first couple of weeks of October to be filled with lots of anniversary goodies for the second anniversary of the game, and of course some new content. But just like last year, it seems like the lead up to that is going to be fairly slow. August looks a little bit scant right now, but expect some surprises to come in the month of August. I think that they did a pretty good job of surprising us with the raid event that happened out of nowhere at the end of July. So that's kind of what I'm looking at as far as August. But we'll read through everything here, skimming over some of the stuff that's just recapping what's already happened. And as we go along, I'll try to give you my impressions or my predictions when that's relevant. Alright, so Agito Okada here, director of Dragalia Lost. I want to start by thanking you for playing Dragalia Lost. I don't think Director Okada has ever missed a beat when it comes to thanking us for playing Dragalia Lost. It's the one thing that is almost guaranteed to be in all of these this month. Anyway, he then goes on to recap the Doomsday Getaway, says how the mystery is slowly revealing itself. We find out about the theme song, it's an original song. Summer Amane, obviously they've brought back the conviction item, so it makes it easier to unlock her mana circles. It's a really nice feature that made its debut with Wukong and his raid. We get a recap of the master difficulty on Kaiyan being added to the Agito Uprising. They even say the boss is incredibly tough, so I guess this is your barometer of what incredibly tough looks like, is Master Kaiyan. In their mind, that's supposed to be an incredibly tough fight. And I have to say, I've been trying to attempt it in single player, auto solo play. It's pretty challenging. I found that just to get past the portion in the initial part of the fight where he holds down one of your adventurers and clenches his fist, just to break out of that in single player play is pretty difficult. It's hard to get the DPS you need to do that. And obviously that's like one of the lesser familiar mechanics in the trial. So suddenly changing all of his big red swipes into purple swipes has a pretty good way or pretty good effect on messing with the AI, I should say, since they pretty much cover a good, I would say three-quarter circle of the battleground, and not a lot of AI will be able to escape from that in time, especially if they're in the middle of a skill. So I found it to be pretty challenging. I'm likely going to do most of my play for that in co-op because of the difficulty level. Additionally, Summer Norwin, Summer Sanoa, and Summer Konohana Sakuya made their appearance in Gala Dragalia, which is also live, so we get a recap of that. Recap of Galalaxy. It looks like, based on the DPS sim, she's actually very, very strong, so even better than I expected. I would imagine some of that is due to the passive damage of Fig being pretty good, but I think that her ranged style of gameplay makes her very interesting, so she may be more lucrative than I thought. I don't think she's busted in the way that Marth is still, just because Marth enables some really degenerate speed comps where you're activating his last boost multiple times, or maybe you're running with multiple Marths and therefore getting lots of skills off. So I think he can still do some things that maybe she can't. But in terms of just her DPS or sheer numbers, she's basically at the top of the charts for Flame in the simulator now, which is kind of interesting. So I think she's quite a good unit. Anyway, now we get into plans for this month. That should be all or most of the recap. An Onslaught event will start around mid-August. This event will be set during a summer festival and will feature adventurers in special festival attire. We'll also add one special quest to Dragon Battles, so I hope you're looking forward to it. I honestly am not really looking forward to Onslaught or Defensive Battle events that much. I do think they are filler events, and I think it's evident by the first couple events we've had. If that changes this time around, perhaps they're able to develop a little bit more freely. The teams are back in action following maybe some setbacks with world circumstances. If this is at the quality of a facility event or the quality of a raid, then I'd be excited about it. but the fact that we don't even have like an icon or preview here, I know they want to surprise us, but it feels very budget to me. These events have always felt pretty budget. Obviously, there's just been a couple of them, but I'm not that excited about the event itself, but I am excited about the story. Having a festival attire is going to be fun. I've seen other gacha games that do kind of extend summer a bit, starting off with swimsuits or beach, and then eventually getting into August with more like festival garments, yukatas and kimono. So I think that could be pretty fun, and honestly, I think we're going to get new adventures for this. I don't necessarily think we're going to get alts. If we do get alts, I wouldn't mind a Festival Eleonora in a kimono, of course. I think that would be pretty nice. She's always interested in human culture, so getting to celebrate a festival seems like something she would want to do. And obviously, you might think of Yaten or Natalie with this, but their main versions of themselves are already interested in festivals, so I feel like it'd be kind of odd for them to have a festival alt per se, since they're already celebrating festivals. I would like it if they are the stars of the event, though. I think that would be fun. With these being more budget events that kind of feel like glorified castle stories that are a little bit more in-depth, it's a good time, in my mind, to kind of recycle some characters, get them to have some original content of their own when they were introduced in the past during other characters' events. So if they make a return appearance or are actually prominent in this event, I'd probably enjoy that. But from the sake of selling things, I don't think they'll be featured on the banner unless they're alts of themselves. So we'll see exactly who shows up on this. I would say I think they're going to probably introduce some new adventurers for it. And then, starting late August, they'll revive a Crescendo of Courage facility event. The story is connected to Splash of Adventure, the raid that was around just a couple weeks ago, so make sure to play Crescendo of Courage if you missed it the last time it was held. This does have a pretty nice facility attached to it. This was the first facility that we got that boosted adventurers based on their weapon type from a facility event, compared to most of them that boost based on element. So this boosts bows and daggers, I believe. It's a good pickup if you don't have it already, and it's a cute event, it's a fun event, so I think this will be nice. I'm glad this is getting a revival, and the fact that with the previous revival, they brought back the banner and they gave out some new mana spirals, I do think there's a possibility we get some mana spirals here. On this banner, we had Summer Verica as well as Summer Cleo, and I think that both of them could get mana spirals. Unfortunately, last time around, they skipped over the 4-stars, Summer Estelle, who was the welfare unit for the raid, as well as Summer Ronzel. So unfortunately, I think they're probably going to skip over Summer Luca as a 4-star, but maybe they'll make an exception for him since there are some light spirals happening at the same time, as we'll see in just a moment. And in fact, that's the next thing here. We'll unlock mana spirals for light attuned adventurers in late August. Mana spirals will be unlocked for Hildegard and Julieta, 5-star adventurers who have been in the game since it was released. This is fantastic. I know these are fan-favorite adventurers. I'm really excited about both of them having mana spirals, mostly for Julieta because Julieta just has not seen much action since her inception. She has some nice properties for facility events and wave-based content, but none of that is particularly challenging, and then she's not really that good of a match against High Zodiarch, so she just hasn't really gotten to do anything super cool. Hildegard I personally used for my first clear of High Zodiarch's trial back on standard difficulty, but that fight wasn't around long enough before Expert and Master came out to have really seen a lot of play, and then with that fight coming out last and then Kayan coming out relatively quickly among the Agitos with it coming out second, it just really got pinched from both sides, and there's not a lot of play in High Zodiarch's trial right now. Having said that, we know from the last this month in Dragalia Lost that we're getting a new Agito trial or Agito Uprising battle at the end of this month, and of course our enemy is going to be a shadow element enemy. So there's a good chance that light adventurers like Hildegard and Julieta will be able to be used there. In terms of what I'm expecting from them, I've seen a couple people thinking that Hildegard will get access to life shields. that would be fine. I could see it happening. They have transformed other normal shields into life shields in the past. If you look at Ronzel's Mana Spiral, that's basically what they did on his second skill, Stormwall. But for Hildegard, I would actually like to see something a little bit crazier to differentiate her a little bit from Grace. And certainly she's different in some ways. She's actually a healer instead of a shielder. But what I would like to see is actually getting to play in the revive space. It's just so novel. It seems like it'd be very fun, but imagine giving somebody a revive, like a heart just appears above them. That'd be kind of sweet, wouldn't it? It might be too broken for sure, but I feel like there may be ways you could do it. I don't know, maybe not. You'd have to have a ridiculous SP cost, and it would totally change her kits. But maybe, if nothing else, like, maybe she could have a revive on her passive or something, or like a Phoenix Down type passive where like the first player who dies in a fight automatically comes back to life and it only works once a quest. Something like that would be really sweet, but it is a little bit borderline or on the edge of what Dragalia I think would be willing to do, so I kind of doubt that will happen. I think they're really just going to do what they've done with most healers with her. Like, her skill prep will probably get skill charge tacked onto it. Her first skill will heal for more. It already cleanses curse, so that won't really change. Her second skill will give regen, and the shield it applies will change into a life shield. And I think she has HP 70% equals recovery, or some variant of a recovery ability. Maybe they'll just change it to recovery and strength, or recovery and defense, like something kind of small and generic. She really doesn't need that much of an upgrade to perform well. It's just that what happened with High Zodiarch was very quickly starting with Expert High Zodiarch's trial, and perhaps even in Standard, although I can't really remember this happening during Standard, so I think it's mainly during Expert. People started playing with a 4 DPS comp, and I'm sure it was doable in Standard, but by Expert, when people were doing time attack, it really became like the only strategy people were doing. It really dominated all other strategies, so she just never saw the light of day in that fight. And as for Julieta has Slayer Strength. She has a Last Recovery passive, so they could change that to be like Silas's, where it works multiple times per quest. For Slayer Strength, they could change it into Flurry Slayer Strength, which they've done for other characters. But as an axe, I don't think she's especially good at keeping combo, even if you could backline, let's say, a Mitsuhide for extra combo time. So what I'm hoping for is Resilient Slayer Strength. So you get stacks of strength either for your HP falling to a low level, or for defeating enemies. And maybe another way they could do it is Unyielding Slayer Strength, where you only have to fall to 80% HP to get extra stacks. I think that would be a pretty fitting ability for her, since she feels like she's such a tank. You know, she has that last recovery built in. She's an axe, she's defensive. Her second skill gives her a really strong personal buff to defense. It's kind of like the Naveed level where she can sort of be unkillable. So I expect that to get maybe a little bit of an upgrade. It also prevents knockback. And her first skill deals damage. What I absolutely don't want to see is just paralysis getting tacked onto her for her first skill. I think it would make sense if they did a Zubajier thing and made it like a low HP, more damage for low HP type of skill, just because I do feel like that resilience or that tankiness to her makes sense. Or maybe they could have it drain life or something so it could restore her health, although it might get a little redundant having 3 triggers of last recovery and having all that. But still, I think that'd be fun and fitting for Julieta. She's a character I dream summoned to get the first time, even though I summoned dupes later on, so this is a character I really like. I didn't end up mana spiraling Summer Julieta, just for lack of resources, but if Julieta, I mean, she's getting a mana spiral, so I will mana spiral her, and I'm hoping she's good. If she's good as well, I'll probably try main her in the Agito content that comes out. Okay, let's continue reading on. Chapter 15 will be added to the main campaign in late August. Chapter 14 was a critical juncture in the story, but Chapter 15 will raise various mysteries that lead into future story threads, and it's connected to the next chapter. It'll also feature the prince fighting with a certain sibling and dragon once again. interesting. So there's a number of possibilities there. So when it talks about future story threads, I'm excited, but also nervous. There's so many unanswered questions and open story threads already that I'd honestly prefer to see more things get resolved rather than opened up. And maybe that's just my concern over the game's longevity, but I would rather just kind of close out an arc. I think that's the type of person that I am. I'd rather just like see what's happening with things we already know about than have whole new mysteries unravel or reveal themselves before us. So I hope they do strike a balance. In terms of the sibling and dragon we're going to fight again, I think it might be... I mean, based on what happened in the interlude, it doesn't really make sense for it to be Leonidas and Mars, but I think those are the only sibling and dragon combo that we've fought against, if I'm not mistaken. So when it came to Valix, we never actually fought Thor in combat. We got a cutscene defeat where he transformed into Thor, and that basically routed us. So we've never technically fought against Thor. We kind of did because it happened in a cutscene, but wasn't Mars actually a battle? Wait, now that I think about it, we've never fought against Leonidas, actually. So we've maybe fought Mars, but not Leonidas. So, this is tricky. I guess it could only really be one of those two? Are there any other siblings and dragons we've fought? Maybe Emil steals away Mercury and transforms her into her human form? You know, that would be a nice cameo in the main campaign, but I doubt that's going to happen. But they're a pairing I do remember. I guess Emil kind of had a thing with Jupiter for a while, but not really because we fought on the summit. Zethia and Zodiark had a thing for one chapter, I think, so that's a sibling plus dragon. Chthonius and Aurelius, or Audric actually, that's not it. That doesn't make sense. So... yeah, or maybe it could be like Baron and Void Poseidon, because they're kind of like homies, or, Ferris rides on Void Nidhogg for transport, so that could happen. So I guess they could do anything, but my money's on Valix plus Thor. I think that's probably got to be it. It also makes sense if they want to line up August for another Void Dragon. Thor could be light element like Valix, but I really wouldn't put it past them to make Thor just like wind element randomly, because we know that in this world, characters and dragons don't always attune themselves properly. Look at the tutorial. They told us to put Midgardsormr onto Yuden. Flame element with wind element. It doesn't make sense, but they did it. So I don't necessarily think that Valix's dragon has to be of the same element as Valix. So I could see Thor being light element if they want to give us an easier time against our new Shadow Agito boss at the end of August, or maybe they could make it wind element, which would be valuable in the following month whenever Master Ciella's Wrath comes out. So I assume it'd be in August, but I guess it could technically be later as well, or September rather. Okay, let's continue reading. The Shadow Attuned boss Tartarus will be added to the Agito Uprising at the end of August. There we go, we have the name. We had the picture reveal last time. He looks awesome. Standard and expert difficulties will be added, and Tartarus will transform during the expert difficulty battle. With this edition, we'll have Agito bosses of all 5 elements. Sweet, I'm looking forward to that. I found the expert difficulty to be kind of the perfect mix for me. I really like the expert difficulty fights. The master difficulty is fun, in my opinion, to like try and do, but I don't really enjoy grinding master that much. It's more fun for me to like get that one clear in, sort of how I used to treat High Dragon Trials back in the day, where they were still difficult enough that I didn't really want to grind them, but it felt satisfying to get that first clear and maybe just do weeklies. That's kind of where I'm at with master, whereas with expert, I feel like I can play these repeatedly, some of them I can auto. It's a pretty easy time, and it makes me feel like it's worth getting the weapons because it's not at such a high cost to my time or my sanity in some cases with the difficulty. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this, and I'm glad that they kind of spaced things out as they did. This is around the time, I guess, that we would have gotten High Zodiark, but it just feels pretty good. Like, I think they've interspersed Master nicely, so I'm looking forward to writing out the rest of the year with Agito. And my expectation is, I said that I think we'd get Master Ciella's Wrath in September. Then in October, I think we'll probably get Master Twins. In November, I think we would get Master Tartarus. And then in December, I think we'll get whatever our new set of trials are. To me, that would make sense. That would kind of be one new endgame thing per month for the rest of the year. So I see that as pretty reasonable. I don't think it's necessarily too hasty with Masters coming out once per month compared to last year where we had Master High Dragons coming out once per week on top of Expert Time Attack. So that's what I'm hoping to see. Now we have some more info about Draconic Essences. So some of this has already been said, but what's new is they say, we plan to increase the number of dragons who can be unbound using Draconic Essences little by little over time. We're also planning other uses for Draconic Essences in the future. They'll share more details in a future update notification, so please wait a little while longer. Yeah, that last section here is new. I think that Draconic Essences are pretty nice. I feel like they've implemented them well. They're not something that I think you need to grind out proactively because I don't think the stamina you spend to Eldwater conversion is worth it. So, I don't think you should ever farm these if your goal is to sell the dragon. They've made it costly enough that you would only really want to farm these if you actually care about obtaining and max unbinding that dragon. Well, not obtaining, I should say, because you can't get the first copy, but max unbinding or unbinding a dragon. So I like that they've done it that way, where it's actually a way of strengthening yourself. It's not about Eldwater farming or anything like that. Maybe it could get to that point if double drops apply to Draconic Essences and we get half stamina or something. But the other thing that I've liked that I think this does, and I noticed they didn't really pick all the chapters that were like this, but if they put these strategically on chapters where people tend to get stuck in the campaign, and maybe with future Draconic Essences they'll do that, I think that's actually a way to get people to concentrate on certain story chapters and possibly have a few co-op rooms in those every day. I know I've been just doing this with skip tickets, but if this is harder for you or you don't have skip tickets, I could see this be a way of be a means to funnel people into certain story chapters where they're trying to collect these unbinds, and then maybe as a consequence help people who are genuinely just struggling with the chapters try and clear them. It doesn't happen too often because the chapters are not that hard once you kind of invest and have done some endgame content or got some Chimera Tech weapons or whatever it may be. But some of those very hard chapters are genuinely pretty tough. I mean, they're not that easy to beat in single player. So I like the idea of using this as a way to concentrate players to clear those in the future when they may have kind of run out of play otherwise because most players had already cleared them. Let's move on to Gala Dragalia Remix, since I don't really have any thoughts on what the other uses for Draconic Essences in the future could be. The only other thing I can think of is maybe as a weapon crafting material, like if you want to make Agni's Greatsword or something, and you spend some Void Agni drops plus some Agni Essence and you craft a really cool weapon. That'd be kind of nice, but other than that, I have no thoughts on that. So now we get to Gala Dragalia Remix. They mentioned it made its debut. Some of this is really just a recap once again, but they're going to continue to use this format in the future, and the Gala adventurers and dragons who appear will change each time, so that's really nice to see. For more information about the adventurers and dragons who appear, tap Summon on the in-game footer menu, then select Appearance Rate and check the Appearance Rate section. So we already kind of know about that. Future updates: with the update at the end of August, you'll be able to use multiple summon vouchers at the same time when performing single summons. Additionally, you'll be able to use the autoplay feature in defensive battle quests during defensive events. Also, it's still a little early, but Dragalia Lost will celebrate its 2nd anniversary in September. Like last year, there'll be various promotional events, and we're preparing an event that's related to the main campaign. We're also planning some new features, but we'll share information gradually starting in September. I hope you're looking forward to it. I am. I think that'll be a welcome refresh for Dragalia, maybe get some new types of content in. In conclusion, we're giving all players the following items this month: 3 summon vouchers, 10,000 Eldwater, so not too much, but it's something. And basically that is it. So to talk about these future updates real quick, the multiple summon vouchers thing is convenient, but we don't know if, let's say you summon 10 singles at once, and on the 5th single you got a 5-star. We don't know if you're going to carry through whatever heightened appearance rate you had through all 10 of those summons by doing the singles in batches, or if it's going to reset your pity rate for the subsequent 5 singles that you got like after that midway single that you got a 5-star on. So basically what I'm trying to say is I don't think that this is necessarily optimal. If it doesn't work where your pity rate applies to all of them, then you would rather do them individually. So if you get a 5-star, you know your pity rate has reset itself. It's certainly a time saver, and that may be worth the trade-off in optimality of summoning for some people. So I think it's nice. If we could just change them into 10-folds, that would be fantastic. I would probably take that, honestly. And then finally, the autoplay feature in defensive battles. I'm a little bit pessimistic or skeptical of this, to be honest. I don't know what this is going to look like, because you have to span a lot of the map very quickly in defensive battles, so I'm skeptical of the AI's ability to handle autoplay on defensive battles without the gate just getting wrecked. I could see it coming to the easier difficulties of defensive battles and not coming to like the hardest difficulty, which would be funny, but also tragic in a kind of monkey's paw. Be careful what you wish for. We wanted auto battle for defensive battles, but alas, we get it for all but the one that you actually grind the most. It could happen because with raids, we can't auto EX still. We can't auto nightmare. So I wouldn't be surprised if like you can't auto master or EX defensive battles, which would be kind of defeat the whole purpose. But anyway, that's pretty much going to do it for this month in Dragalia Lost for the month of August. What did you think about the previews and the new information that was announced here? How are you feeling about the recap? I feel like there was a lot of recap this time. This was one of the most scant that we've had as far as new info. But it was still fun to have a nice little discussion about it, especially thinking ahead about the mana spirals. In addition to these 2 characters, I think we're probably going to get Summer Cleo and Summer Verica. I think we may get Luca, or maybe some other 3-star light adventurers. I wouldn't be surprised if we get some light adventurers who are part of the tutorial summons now, since the other elements all have characters in the tutorial summons that can be mana spiraled. I hope that you are looking forward to August in Dragalia Lost. I'm looking forward to it, but I think it's going to be slow for a couple weeks until we really get some new content. That is kind of the way of the game these days, but I will stay tuned to whatever's new in Dragalia Lost and bring you videos when new content happens. Gonna wait a couple days and then I will make a video going through the story of our raid event, so I'm looking forward to that one. I have no idea about the event. I've managed to stay spoiler free, so that's going to be fun to go through all at once. But that is really going to do it for today's video, everyone. So thank you as always for watching, take care, and I'll see you next time.